So let's go ahead and go through this. So I have changed the pig due date to be April 4th because people need more time. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and talk. Other question was final exam. Final exam is going to be, let's see. So I find it the same way, which was Temple final exam schedule. Also, yes, you may have realized that things have been released for the for I think the summer and fall, like the schedules. It's the first time looking at it. I have no idea about in-person versus not. My classes are listed as online with in-person labs, so make it that what you will. But again, I really have no idea. Am I teaching over the summer? Yes, I'm teaching. If people sign up for my courses, I'm teaching over the summer, but the course I'm registered for is the one that is the course that I'm assigned to is the one that is 2 after this. So which is 2168. I know there's 2168 should be offered over the summer as well. Okay. So let's see. Are we in the common finals? No, we are not in the common finals. Excellent. No, we are not. We are not in the common finals. So according to this, our final exam schedule, right? And what we do is, right, what are we going to, so we just look at this PDF over here and we just simply drag it and say, hey, okay, when is our day meeting classes, right? And I know we're a 4 credit hour class, but we look under the 3 credit hour because one of those credit hours is the lab section. So that's why we look there. And then and so we do 2. So our exam is 429 from 1 to 3. Okay. And it's going to be operated the same way a quiz will, but we just all sign in and it will be on Canvas. Again, more details about that. More importantly, again, I'm going to just simply refresh you on the content of it. It will be 3 questions. The first question will be a file processing problem. Something of the vein of this file has a bunch of social security numbers. Please create a new file in which all the social security numbers have been removed. Regex is really good at that. So it'll be something like that along those lines. Last year, it was, here's a bunch of stuff. Last semester was, here's a bunch of text. There's some Temple email addresses in here. Please remove all the Temple email addresses. Oh yeah, it's open everything. Other than like looking for the answer online and posting questions on Chegg, right? You can't use other humans. Speaking of Chegg, I really need to figure out how to sign up for an expert account there so I can give answers. So I can give just slightly wrong answers to the students who submit the questions there. I'm sure I can figure that out by then. Will it take the 2 full hour? It could, but I don't think so. Most people did it pretty quickly. So yeah, you can, again, it is very clearly spelled out in the syllabus. The moment you start asking other human beings who can respond to you for help, that is where you cross the line into cheating. Looking something up online and say, here's an article that will help me. As long as you cite that, that's good. Right.
Professor, I just have a question.
Yep.
You said it was on Canvas.
It will. The final exam will be on Canvas. It'll be, yes.
And will we be able to like run our code on that, or
no? You'll paste. You'll do your code. So what I imagine, if I was if I was taking this exam, this is how it would work for me. I boot up my code editor, be it PyCharm, Idle, or Visual Studio Code, right? I'd look at the question, I'd answer the question, and then I'd paste my my code into the text box when I'm done.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
So yeah. So now that's also part of the reason that it is only 3 questions. And again, it's 3 questions because it's 3 questions because I really do not. It takes when you do something that could potentially introduce bugs into this, it has it takes sometimes a while to figure out what that bug was, and it's normally something very stupid like forgetting a colon or something. But it doesn't mean it's going to be all or nothing. because I'm not going to bother reusing this question, let me go ahead and I've already told you what it is. Let me go ahead and pull up the, let me go ahead and pull up and see if I can pull up the exam from that first question from the exam from last semester, just to give you an idea of what that would look like. Because I know the biggest issue with these kind of exams is like the fear of the unknown. Like, what the heck is it going to be like? I don't understand. I have no idea what to predict.
Math
Okay.
test in a nutshell.
All right, so come on. I want to edit the bloody exam. Let me edit it so that I can. There we go. Okay. Save. There we go. All right, pulling it up now, and then I just got to be able to drag. Okay. All right, so the final exam will look something like this. This is what we had last semester, right? Right, disclaimer. So like I had a disclaimer for Chegg and all that on there. You know, but basically I had this to clarify the info, right? And also don't use input inside of functions. You shouldn't be doing that at this point. Input should be used outside of functions where you're asking for user input. Okay, the functions get data from parameters. All right, and then again, late penalty is 0.1 is like 1 point every 6 minutes. So 0.1.
You know, Mr. Ronson,
Sorry, 1 point per every 10 minutes. Yes.
that's very generous considering that my friend lost like 5% for being 1 second late for his test.
Well, it's easy to calculate. It's consistent, and it deals with, and it helps account for some small technical difficulties. So here's your first question, right? And this is the way it was work. It was worth 30 points, right? But it was not all or nothing, right? It was 5 points. You get 5 points for being able to read the file, so that everybody should be able to do that and get 5 free points, right? 10 points for correctly identifying what is a TU email, right? 5 points for writing a new file, and 10 points for removing or redacting the file. This. So I broke it up into this. Now, these two 10-point tasks are unfamiliar and may seem like they're very difficult, but that's what we're going to cover today. Okay. So, right, refer back to this video if you need to, but I'm going to close it so I don't spoilerize anything else. All right. So that's question 1. Question 2 will be something that you have not seen before, but is built into Python. And I'm just basically going to say, here's this new thing built into Python. Here's how it's typically used. It's typically used to do these kind of operations. Here's a problem where that's applicable. Please use it, right? And by the way, here's the documentation page you can refer to. So it's basically, I'm testing you. Hey, you should know how to learn things on your own at this point. You know, especially when I've explained it to you. So here's a new thing. Please have fun with it. It's actually not that bad of a problem. Third problem is a Monte Carlo approximation. I will give you a game and ask you and some rules. And the I will give you the game. I will give you the rules that and I'll tell you what I want you to simulate. It might be something like the Monopoly example I gave, where basically, you know, how often do you roll? I want you to simulate how often somebody's going to roll 3 doubles in a row. You know, that kind of stuff. It will tip. I will typically tell it. I like the idea of basically using a children's game of some kind to you know, something very simple to kind of tell you, to get you to simulate it. So
I have a question.
Mhm.
You know, give the rules for the games.
Sorry?
Are you gonna give the rules?
Oh, yeah. If I don't give you the rules for the game, how would you know what to simulate?
Okay, just making sure.
And so if you want to practice on that, look up the game, look up any version of the game, Shoots and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders for kids, and basically try to calculate how many turns it takes a player to win. No idea. Most students were finished before the time limit, though. So, but a lot of students were also not finished by the, also needed a couple extra minutes to finish it up. Again, the rubrics there So on the stuff about snakes and ladders, if you want testing, good test, if you want to go and try something that's probably going to be a bit tougher than what you'd see. Sorry, if you want to try your hand at something that would be tougher than the third question for our exam, okay, but is in the same vein. So kind of like, if you could do this, you could probably do the exam. Try basically recreating the game Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders. It's a children's game, look it up, and then see how many, and then try to calculate on average, what is the average number of turns it takes a single player to win win the game. Okay. And it has a lot more moving components than I would want for an exam, but for practicing, sounds great. Okay. Similarly, you know, again, bit more of a setup than I'd want for an exam because it has non-standard pieces. Candyland, you know, those require quite a bit more setup than I'd want for an exam. Right. I like things that basically where it's very simple, like rolling a die or here's a deck of cards, please deal it out, you know. Okay. So those are the three questions. And again, as you saw, I broke it down and there's typically like easy free points that help you start. And the rubric, and it's often arranged in order so that you can like say, this is the order in which you should approach the problem. The rubric gives you the hints as to what you need to do. So I try to make it as stress-free as I try to remove any excess stress from the exam there. Okay. So let's talk about remaining homeworks and stuff for this class. So what I'm going to do is I really want to give a new assignment, but I mean, you guys are busy. You've got like tons of stuff to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the number of dropped grades by 1. Okay. And I'm going to give you another assignment. So you could do this or you could not, but if you decide to do it, it's going to replace your lowest assignment grade. Make sense? So gives you opportunity for that. So completely optional to do that. And it will be on what we're going to be going over today, which is the regular expressions. Okay. Next, I've opened up, let's see. Let me go to my modules. I opened up module 11, decided to be pretty lazy about it because it was a lot of stuff, but basically we have a couple of things over here. So first off, I need you to, in this lab, I want you to do your proposal. Yes, it's worth 10 points, but those are not assignment points. Those are final project points. Yes, Mr. Rivsby.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. What's the policy? I know we're getting towards the end of the semester. What's the policy for like turning in late assignments or sorry, exercises or readings from Runestone?
Runestone, if it's done by the end of the semester, yay. Okay, so if it's Runestone, as far as Runestone is concerned, so long as it's done by the end of the semester, great.
So does that mean full credit or partial credit?
That means full credit. If
Okay.
You can get full credit for everything you do. As far as the Runestone solo exercises, so there's no reason you should lose out on that part of the on that 10% of your grade.
And the readings as well, right?
Yeah, that's part of the 10%.
Terrific. Okay.
Good. When it comes to the lab assignments and stuff like that, that's a bit different, and same with the quizzes. But but if you have extenuating circumstances, again, let me know. Okay.
Okay. I sent you an email. I'll follow up.
Now yeah, I'm sorry. Like my emails have been completely bombarded. Like you may have said, if you send me an email and if you send me an email like the night before, most likely it's already hit my second page when I wake up in the morning. That I get a lot.
I don't understand. Thank you. It's okay.
Okay. And yes, combined, the final exam and project will be worth 30% of the grade. So, now let's talk about this. Notice that these are worth 0 points and don't have a due date. So this is the tracks. Now, last semester I gave these out, but they ended up being a bit more than a lot of students were to chew. But what these were is great kind of starting points for your final project if you wanted to try to. So if you're interested in games and you're willing to try a different language, there's a whole bunch of videos on how to build Pong in Lua 2D, and then how to build a basic Mario engine in Lua with Love. It's not Love 2D, Lua with Love. So similarly, if you wanted to do Android or iOS programming, this is the first module is that you're building a Pokedex app, then doing a game app, and then doing basically a note taking app. And those were basically kind of different ways to build up to that. Similarly with web, that was building web pages and the like. And then like a fake stock trading website. So these are all kind of different ways to do it. If you turn any one of them in, if you do for multiple, you're only getting credit for one. But if you do turn any of them in, it will be 100 extra points added on top of your assignments. Okay, so it's completely optional, but these are also good resources for the final project. So again, everything over here, all these tracks are completely optional. You can do them. They're good resources. No, I don't drop the quiz grades. When would they be due? End of semester. Okay. So again, the lab proposal, that's the main problem that we're going to be talking about. But again, you may be panicking looking at all these things, but what this is that like, if you turn one of these in and show me, I'll give you 100 out of 0 points, which again, when we're talking about the way the everything is averaged out, that should work. I do not have time to meet today after class because I am super busy with getting paper done, but you could, but I somehow doubt that would, you're only going to get credit for one, and they are worth a lot. They are a lot of time. Again, late policy on labs after 2 weeks, unless you have extenuating circumstances, it's probably not going to be turned in. It's probably mainly because we just don't like people demoing it in all at once. Okay, like all their labs at the end of the semester. Okay, and then after this, we really won't have anything new introduced. All you'll have is a progress report and a final project. So really what I'm trying to tell you is that there's no, other than the final project, you have no more required work from me. You have a lot of optional work. And it's still worth attending class because I will tell you about, we'll be doing stuff in front of the final. And part of the reason this is, even though we have a month left, is because A, there's been no spring break, so no chance to recover. B, you're still dealing with social isolation from COVID. C, it's still a global pandemic, which is really stressful. D, I'm pretty sure most people have been affected by the pandemic personally. So it's just been kind of crazy. Yeah, so for one of the tracks, you would do one track. I don't know if it was, you can do one part of this track. So recreating Pong is pretty good. What the track does, if you watch the videos for Pong, is that it will, what it does is that it will build you up. It shows you how to build Pong from scratch up to the point where, and then it leaves the last part for you to do yourself. And that part is getting the AI to move the opponent's paddle. Yeah, you can totally do something else from games. These are simply resources for you. These are simply resources that are available for you. So if you wanted to see how to recreate a classic game, so an acceptable final project would be recreating Pong, then taking it and adding some other stuff, like maybe you have to dodge enemies shooting at you with Pongs, or maybe it's multi-ball Pong or something like that. Just making your own twist on it. Maybe it's 4-player Pong, right? So there's, similar with Mario, you want to make your own kind of thing. Also with Pong, right? It's a ball and paddle game. There's other ball and paddle games you can try to make once you do Pong, like Breakout, which is where you have a paddle and you hit the ball and it breaks blocks above you. So again, this is in Love 2D. If you want to work in Python, you can also take a look at Pygame. But again, just as long as it appeals to you, you can do it. I mean, any kind of game, especially like a text-based adventure game, would be cool. So, just, but I think that's enough for that for right now. So let's go ahead and talk about that first problem on the exam that I wanted to talk about. And again, like I said, this is going to require some story time on our part, taking us all the way back to the wee years of the before times, back in that naive time of 2015. Now, many things happened in 2015. I think specifically the beginning of the presidential race for 2016. It may have occurred in 2016, last I checked, right? So we've got, but what happened is that you may recall that that back in the 2016 Republican presidential primary. And the reason I'm talking about like Republican politicians in general is because it specifically refers to to one person there, and it's not who you think it is. So, but first, before we talk about that, I need to talk about this state, Florida.
Florida man.
Florida man, yes. Now, for those of so Florida is one of the states. Now, for those of you who may not be from the for those of you who are not from the United States, would anybody like to explain what the concept of Florida man is?
They do the most dumbest stuff, but they live. Think of it a Gmod server with no moderation, or a Reddit server with no moderation.
So the meme Florida, and that's a pretty succinct comment, but think of the idea of Florida man, where it is basic, and I think there's probably a Wikipedia page. Yep, Florida man. And it comes from basically where you can just Google Florida man as in the news, and it will say Florida man does X or Florida man does Y. And it's typically something crazy about somebody who's now. So the joke is, of course, that everybody in Florida is crazy, but it's actually not the case, because every state has their own crazy people, right? CNN article on the meme also suggests the Miami New Times, so they may be a bit biased here because Miami's a city in Florida, claims that the freedom of information laws in Florida make it easier for journalists to obtain information about arrests than police in other states. It also can partially be like a whole self-perpetuating meme, right? Like if you put something in Florida, right? If you put Florida man in your headline, you know it's going to get clicks, and clicks means advertising dollars, which is very important these days, right? So, okay, CNN also mentions that it could suggest the breadth of reports of bizarre activities due to a confluence of factors, including public records laws giving journalists fast and easy access to police reports, relatively high and diverse population of the state. It is a fairly large state. A lot of people do go to Florida. I mean, it's got a lot of attractions there. The highly variable weather and a lack of mental health funding. So anyway, Florida man is the world's worst superhero. It is a meme. And you do see that Florida does get kind of picked on a whole lot in TV shows, particularly The Good Place makes a lot of references to some of one of the characters being from Florida and a lot of that. So anyway, but the freedom of information laws in Florida are actually very it is pretty broad. The Florida Public Records Law says, is the policy of the state that all state, county, and municipal records shall at all times be open for personal inspection by any person. That's pretty broad. And then it further defines public records as exactly what you think it would be, and agency as exactly what you think it would be. And so there's some exemptions, of course, but they're basically, it's really easy for a reporter to get access to like police reports and say, wow, that was a crazy story. I'm going to write that up. So why am I bringing up Florida man? Okay. So why am I bringing this up, and why am I talking about this in the context of the 2016 presidential race? Well, you may remember there was that before Donald Trump won the Republican presidential primary, the person that everybody thought would win the Republican presidential primary was who? Anyone?
Ted Cruz or
Jeb.
Marco Rubio?
Jeb Bush.
Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush. He was the front runner. He was the front runner, although Rubio, being from Florida, was not a bad guess. Okay, so Jeb basically had a lot of backing of the poor Jeb. A lot of memes from him. I still to this day, basically, whenever there's an election thread going on, make my prediction that Jeb takes everything. As kind of a joke, but but he was, as you can see over here, so he is, says son of the former President H.W. Bush and younger brother of former President George W. Bush. So he was the 43rd governor of Florida. And he served, fairly long term, and was Secretary of Commerce for a fairly long term. So he was in Florida for a while, So, and part of this is that if you look at this this period of time, 1999 to 2007, technologically, what happened? The wide adoption of the internet, email, and that kind of stuff. That kind of happened during that time period. In fact, the big thing for him was, spoilers, here we are. So anyway, he had a lot of, basically he was kind of promoted himself as an e-governor during the time because he started taking emails and stuff. So what happened in 2015 as part of trying to show his transparency was that in 2015, he released several thousand emails from his time as governor online to kind of show what happened. Most of the emails were public record under Florida sunshine law. However, Bush created controversy by releasing some emails that included some personal details such as social security numbers, names, addresses, as well as the contents of these messages. So I believe the technical term for this is a big oof. I don't know the kids' parlance these days, but that sounds about right.
That sounds like he really didn't think that through.
Let's see. So yeah, The Verge had the original article on this one. With the subtext, of course, Florida man strikes again. So here's so in the spirit of transparency, I'm posting emails from my governorship here, notes on the website. Some are funny, some are serious, some I wrote in frustration. However, issues, and of course, if we try to go to this, it's not, server's not found because anyway, so there's quite a variety of them, right? Some are very personal, but others are like this. And you'd be like, why are you sending this to the governor? But I'll explain that in a second. So, dear Governor Jeb Bush, R.E. blank, right? This personal stuff. So SSN, which is short for Social Security number. And again, so for those again who are not United States citizens and don't have Social Security numbers are basically were never intended to be your personal ID, but they kind of are used by a lot of companies and stuff as kind of your personal as your basically your official government ID number. So yeah, and so this person's essentially got doxxed. This letter is to inform you that the fact regarding blank employment with the House of Hope Orlando, whatever this person is, a vital part of our boys' problem, moral care, integrity, right? He's done all these things. Current probation officer has no problems, and she's aware of his position right. So then here's another one on healthcare, basically saying, hey, this is the patient. Here's the person and their Social Security number, their healthcare information. Please help us get this security. And get this person into surgery. right? Now you might be asking, why are you emailing somebody? Yes, we're going to be doing something with removing social security numbers. Yes. So you might be asking, why would people be doing this in the first place? Why would you be emailing the governor for like a medical issue? Well, desperation for one, right? You reach out to somebody powerful, they can make phone calls and maybe make something happen. But seriously, there are times when the only way to cut through red tape is to reach out to your elected representative, your elected senator, your state representative or state senator, or your governor. Seriously. The most common, the thing that comes to the top of my mind as to why you might need to reach out to a governor or somebody to cut through red tape is if you are legally declared dead, and that was not done. That is not correct. You are very much alive. This happens occasionally. It sucks because if you're dead, dead people don't have credit. Dead people can't apply for loans or applications or jobs or anything. You're dead, right? But obviously you're clearly here and you need to get that taken care of, except, you know, the system doesn't recognize you because you're dead. So being declared dead is a very, and I'm not speaking from experience here, but it is a terrible legal headache. And generally the easiest way to do that is to basically get somebody important to light a fire under somebody else to make it their personal problem to solve. So, you know, so quick to shift the blame, basically, but blah, blah, blah. Anyway, point is that if you had done some basic scripting here, you know, this entire 24-hour news story could have been avoided. And I'm not saying that and again, I'm not like trying to pick on anybody from a particular party or any particular politician. I take my job as a professor very seriously, so I don't I try to keep my politics out of this. But when it's something newsworthy, right, I try to basically, you know, if there were examples from other candidates or anybody else, I'd point them out too, but also just, again, but I'd probably stick with Jeb Bush, to be honest, because it allows me to talk about Florida man. So if we're going to be completely honest there. Did they not check for this? I mean, you'd be surprised about how easy it is to drop the ball on something, right? So, and again, the redactions here are the Verge's own. So, okay. So how can you solve for this, right? Well, you'd need to write a program to identify. The easiest way to do this is to write a program that identifies social security numbers. All right, so let's boot up idle for a second. So let's start by asking everybody, what in the world is the format of a social security number, right? What do you mean, can you use this outside of class? Oh yeah, regex are like the best, because anything that has basically a pretty much any document editor that has a built-in find and replace functionality can pretty much supports regex. For instance, let's look at Microsoft Word. Right? So new blank document. Control F, find in this document. Let's see. Can I really Control F? No, I want to search for advanced find. More. Let's see. Search. Oh, I'm pretty sure we could use stuff like that. Format. No, special. I thought it supported regex, but I don't see it over here. Maybe I never. So for the record, I never use. I pretty much never use Word. So, but if I were to use Visual Studio Code right over here, so don't save. Don't save. No, I don't need to save this. But if I were to use Visual Studio Code and I were to do and I were to open a document and do a find and replace, you'll notice there's this dot star over here. That's use regular expressions. So it's built into your other stuff. Really don't drop your social security codes in here. All right. So, anyway, so what is the format for a social security code? And people pointed this out in chat. The format for a social security number, it's a string because it's got dashes in it. And and the social security format is typically 3 digits. And I'm going to just use the 6s because somebody did. 6. Or even easier, 1, 2, we have 3 digits, then 2 digits, and then 4 digits. If that's your social security number, I'm so sorry for doxing you. You know,
there's a huge chance that every number we put here is someone's actual security number that we haven't met.
doubtful, but I mean, it's all based on states and stuff and like where you're born. That's how they're kind of issued. So there's your there's the social security number. Now, if we were writing a standard Python program, it's actually kind of a pain to figure out, hey, is this a social security number? Let's just write a function, right? Def is SSN, given a string. All right, given a string, okay, is this thing a social security number? Okay. Okay, send checker. I'm just kind of give you an example of how annoying it is. Well, the first thing we'd have to do is check, okay, is it the right length? Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 strings long. So if text not equal to 11, sorry, if length of text is not equal, don't follow along with this. This would be a terrible idea. This is the wrong way to do things. If length of text is not equal to 11, return false. Okay. And then we'd want to say, hey, if, let's see. And then, I'd probably want to do like something like this, digits equal to, right? There's all our digits. So first off, and then I'd be basically asking for digit in text. And let's go ahead. I'll be smart. I'll slice. So 0 to 1, 0, 1, 2. So up to, but not including 3. If digit is not in digits, return false. And then I'd have to go on and continue going. Okay, if digit if text 3, which is the dash, if it's not a dash, return false. Right, so it's possible to do this. Everybody sees, and now the rest is just copy, pasting, and adjusting the slice. But it's a pain, right? This looks ugly and horrid, right? It's just not fun. Okay, it is just tedious, and yeah, you can totally do this. But also, then you'd have to run this on every single size 11 chunk of text in your document for every possible substring. And it's awful. It's making me nauseated just thinking about it. Or that could just be, the leftovers from Passover. But hey, so so is there a better way? And the answer is yes, of course there is. That's been the entire point of this spiel, which is Regex. So I like this website. I'm going to go hold on and pull it up on this side. Regex, kind of a good way to learn and build them. Regex. So Regex is short for regular expressions. Okay. REGEX. So regexer.com. I like this website, which is great because first off, Regex is basically universally understood by pretty much every single programming language. there's some quirks about how we'll implement. We'll learn about how to implement it in how to do it in Python on Thursday. But what we're learning here today can be used in any single programming language. Pretty much every single programming. I don't know any programming language that does not have some support for regex built in. They are that universal. Now there's some specificity about it with like escape characters and stuff, but we can get into that. But that's not something to work about. What the heck do you need to worry about this? All you have to know is that basically in this format, don't worry about it. The regex is what we're putting in between these slashes. Otherwise, don't worry about it. So it works pretty much like a find and replace. So like if I wanted to search for sheep, as in cheat sheet, right? It searches for it. If I wanted to search for text, very important thing. Note it's not highlighting the text over here. It's case sensitive. Okay, although we can say, hey, please not be case sensitive. But anyway, it will, what the entire point of regex is that it will find and replace, sorry, it will find anything and all. It will find basically any pattern you set up. But it is wickedly more powerful than that. So here's some social security numbers over here. Okay, so everybody gets the point. Right, so here I have some text. So let me just kind of skip ahead and then I'll show to just kind of just demonstrate. How would I find a regular expression? How can I write something that searches for this? And it's actually fairly simple. Oh, right, it's 2. So that's a bad social security number. Okay, so, and then, I know it looks like I'm typing in incomprehensible gibberish up there, but hey, it works. So it finds any kind of social security number that it can come up with. Here's another one, 111-11-11-111. It works for also if I do kind of any kind of like randomized number like that. But it finds it. What in the world is going on over here? Well, what I told it to do was find I wanted to find any sequence of characters that matches this pattern. And the pattern is any digit, 3 of those specifically, gotta be 3 in a row, no more, no less, followed by a dash, followed by a digit, specifically 2 digits, no more, no less, followed by a dash, followed by 4 digits, no more, no less. So if I did this, insert. If I did this, it will find that because it finds the substring here. But if I did this, it breaks it. Right, so it finds social security numbers and only or it finds only things in the social security number format, and it doesn't work for letters. So as you can see, this writing this is a lot more powerful than trying to do this kind of stuff. It's a lot more succinct and a lot more powerful. So there's a number of things we can do there, which is amazing. So that you can't normally do in like regular find search. One that we've just seen here is we can specify, hey, I'd like to look for any digit. And it may be a bit hard to see, but it's highlighting each one of those digits individually. Or I could say I'm looking for 2 digits. So a /D means a digit, right? So if I'm saying, hey, look for
Question.
any 2-digit number, specifically 2 digits.
I have a question.
Yes.
Would that work? Would that work in Python? The /D?
You have to do a bit more things in Python. Specifically, you have to use the RE library, and call specific method, but yeah, that it works. You have to do a couple more things. And you'd have to make it a raw string, which we'll get into on Thursday. I'm looking at you all in chat talking about trying to get a PS5. And I'm just sitting here with my PC, which is what I game on, and my Nintendo Switch. I mean, I understand those exclusives, but I really enjoy playing on a PC. Mind you, trying to get into PC gaming these days is just as bad because of the graphics card shortage. I mean, nobody's selling them below MSRP if they're going like for twice that. Like the card I have in here, which I bought back in 2016, is selling for like $400 or $500. You can plug a controller into a PC. I'm sorry, rant over. Okay, let's get back on track. But like, yeah, it is insane right now, just trying to get stuff. I'm glad that my computer works. I'm glad that I have it. I hope to God my graphics card is gonna stay nice and good because I really need it. But yeah, it is a mess. But if I'm gonna just kind of interject to the console wars for a second, I still believe with all my heart that Nintendo Switch is like the greatest console that's been made. Because just that portability, you don't really appreciate it until you have it. And thought, oh, don't get me started on controller. But anyway, I have my opinions, and you guys are totally justified in having your opinions about your gaming consoles, and it is very frustrating that scalpers are dominating the market. All right, going back to this, because we always need kind of a break in stuff. Okay. So, okay, what other kind of things can I search for? I can do stuff like letters, or specifically word characters. W. What looks for anything alphanumeric and underscore. I can also search for white space, which is pretty cool. /S for white space. So say I wanted to search for a telephone number. I have no idea, Lazy. Oh, my kid's watching Looney Tunes, and he's wondering why something comedic happened to one of the characters. Laser, it's because it was just too much information for him to handle. I'm like solo parenting today. My wife isn't feeling too well. So yeah, just one of those things. So let's go back over here. So suppose I've got a telephone number, and I'm going to be pretty easy, and I'm going to just do a telephone number like this, 800-555-1234. And we're kind of going to build up from there, right? So suppose I wanted to build a regex that found telephone numbers. So I would probably do something like this, right? So /D for a digit, and I need 3 of those, followed by a dash, followed by 3 more /Ds, followed by 4 more. Now, you may remember that for my social security number, what I did is that I had curly braces after that, right? Like that. So let me go ahead and just copy this series of /Ds over. Okay. And let me just kind of talk about what kind of another cool thing we can do. I can say basically like, so here, let's do a bunch of A's in a row. very boring, but hey, it works for demonstrative purposes. I can say like, hey, I want you to match 3 A's. So it finds 3 A's here, 3 A's in a row. 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here as well. So this is called the quantifier. You can see that from the pop-up. And what it says is like, and that's what happens when you use curly braces. It says, I'd like you to match, find 3 A's in a row. Find all the 3 A's in a row. You can do some more stuff in here. You can be more specific. Like, I want you to match any series of A's that are between 3 and 5. So it matches this, it matches this, it matches this, this, and this, right? These are between 3 and 5. And the substring's between 3 and 5. So it matches the substring, right? Make sense? There's other ways we can manipulate it so it doesn't get the substring, but for right now, just kind of see how everybody following how this is like, I'd like to find between 3 and 5. We remove this 5, by the way, it just kind of means match at least 3. We can also do the reverse and say, oh, I thought we could do the reverse, but nope. Let's go ahead. We can also kind of swap it and say, I'd like you to match at least 0 and 3 of those. Pretty good. So anyway, now that we know that, we can go back and shorten this up. So again, /d is short for any number, any digit. So we can shorten this to a telephone number is 3 digits, followed by a dash, followed by 3 digits, followed by a dash, followed by 4 digits. I should clarify that that's of course a US telephone number, right? Which is area code and then the number. All right. Now, of course, however, that isn't always the way that isn't the way telephone numbers always work, right? How else do we see telephone numbers?
1-800.
We see, well, I mean, like what kind of, besides dashes is what I'm saying. Right? You might see periods, you might see spaces, you might see parentheses, and yeah, you might see parentheses. So let's go ahead and just like say, okay, let's say we also want to match. So this is a good time to bring up the character, the class creator. So we can also get stuff like this, where somebody says you can have dots in between them, or you might have spaces in between them. We also sometimes see it like this, although that's typically not the way you see it. You typically would see it like this with spaces. Like here's your area code, right? And then there's this number, and then there's the number, and then that, right? This is a very common format where you see maybe, or you might see that as well, right? And so numbers like that are a bit tricky. So what we can do, so first off, let's worry about these dots first. What we can do is we can create what's called a character class over here, or we can create, you know, we can use parentheses here and use some logic. Which I'm trying to figure out. No, that won't work. I was just trying to see which I would introduce. Let's go ahead and do this then. Dash period. Any of the, oh, right. I didn't do the other one, so that's why it didn't qualify. That works now. So what in the world did I just do there? So what changed? Well, each of the dashes I surrounded with brackets and made it bracket period. So what in the world does that do? So let's go ahead and copy this out and kind of show you. And it's kind of will make sense basically if I do this. Right, A-E-I-O-U, all the vowels. And now you can see what's highlighted all over here. So what does this do? It matches. Yep, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it looks through all, it gets your string and looks through all of them and see if it matches an A or E or I or OU.
Right, exactly. It finds all the vowels. It basically finds all the vowel. So, right, just like, so a /D finds any single number. It's called a character class. There's 3 built, there's 6 built in, but there's really only 3. There's /D to find any number, /W to find any alphanumeric, which is, so anything that can be basically part of text that isn't white space or punctuation, right? It also does the underscore because that's part of variables, which is, again, this was made by programmers for programmers. Okay. W, and then you also have S for white space. So digit, word, white space. So that's any space and kind of any other, and any kind of, as well as tabs characters, and line breaks. So what else? So, and I mentioned there were 6, but there's really only 3. So this is any number, any digit, right? So if I capitalize it, what is this doing? Anyone?
Is it looking for things that are not a number?
That's exactly it. Not digit. Right? Answer was right here. Geez. Not digit. I didn't realize the answer was that. That's why I say geez, not geez. Can't believe you didn't get that, but geez, I completely forgot that the number wouldn't be there, would be right there. Anyway, so /D means it is not a digit. So D gets you anything that's a word, and capital D gets you anything that is not that. Similarly, word characters, anything that's not a word character. White space, anything that's not white space. Sorry, white space, anything not white space. Convenient, pretty easy to remember. So really you only have to remember 3 of them. And if what they aren't, and if none of the character classes work for you, you can do some stuff there. You can make your own. A character class, a custom made character class is made only, you say, here's the brackets. It means choose any kind of one of those things. So for instance, I could do, if I only wanted to find the numbers 1 through 6, let's say all 3-digit numbers that are 1 through 6. So exactly 3 of this thing. So 555, 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3. Now, why does it just do 1, 2, 3, but not 2, 3, 4? These are, Regex is greedy by default, which means it tries to grab the biggest glomp of text it can and grabs the first glomp of text it can. So we'll go for 1, 2, 3 rather than 2, 3, 4. And then once it finds 1, 2, 3, it will continue on from the end of the thing it found. Okay, so that's the default behavior of it. So, okay. Also, you can shorten this, which is pretty cool, which is like 1 through 6, right? That kind of makes sense, 1 through 6. It makes more sense when you're saying, hey, I'd like all the things I'd like A through Z capitalized and A through Z. So all capital A through Z's, all lowercase a through Z's, and 3 of them in a row. Pretty cool. You can make your own. And that's different than /W, since /W can have numbers and other stuff in there too. But again, you can build your own. Dash, when it's in between characters, it kind of becomes like the through idea. But otherwise, like, you can put anything in, you can look for any character. So anything that's a dash, a period, a comma, a question mark, right? Anything, things work. The only thing that you, so, and any 3 of them. So that won't work because we don't do that, but here we go. Highlights all those. The only thing you have to be aware of in character classes, besides the way the dash works, is that here is A through Z, lowercase. If I put a caret here, not the vegetable, the symbol, it just like capitalizing it, it flips it. So you can do a not. And the great thing about using regex is it tells you exactly what you're writing down here. which is awesome. And it highlights those individual things. That said, so let's
No,
see.
this would have been a lot. This would have been, this site would have been very, I wish I knew this site when I was doing one of the labs before. Because it would have helped me understand that what I was trying to do for the Hawaiian lab was doing wrong.
Well, regex, the biggest issue with regex is that you see it as a hammer. You definitely want to use this during the final exam. It will make your job a lot easier. It turns something that's maybe 30 lines into 7 lines. That question I showed you, I was able to write my answer in about 6 or 7 lines using regex. And there was only one regex I had to write. The rest was just simply opening the file, doing replacement, and writing the file. So it's very, very, it makes the code very, very clean. But to address something that that's close to what Steven said, you see this amazing tool and you may think of it as a hammer to work on anything. I need to point out, regular expressions are these cool technical toys, but they have a very solid mathematical foundation. Regular expressions are linguistic expressions of discrete finite automata. I know, I just kind of spoke Greek and gibberish there. But the idea here is that that you can't really do anything more advanced than the flow chart for regular expressions. And I mean that mathematically speaking. Like provably mathematically, you cannot be more more advanced than the flow chart. So there's these. So regular languages, basically, they don't have any memory. That you can't do the classic thing of what regular expressions cannot do is parentheses matchings of arbitrary length. You cannot basically say, does every open parentheses have a closed parentheses in this text? Impossible to do that with regular expressions. Mathematically impossible to do that for anything of arbitrary length. We will get to how we actually do this in code on Thursday. Right now, I'm just trying to expose you to the regular expression language itself, which is implemented in Python. Okay.
So to do the parentheses thing, we'd have to use like a different type of loop, like a while loop or something.
You'd have to use something else. Specifically, like what you'd have to use is a context-free grammar in order to analyze that. Which basically means it's regular expressions. So it's a regular language, but with memory, a stack specifically to remember where you've been. If you add a second stack, you get what's called a Turing. You get what's called a Turing complete language. In other words, a programming language. So this is all stuff that comes up in that class automata theory. But just simply put, these things are super powerful, but they can't do everything, right, related to text. But they can be very powerful thing. But they can't do everything. Also, they can look horrible. Regex for email. Let's see, there's one specific one I thought, email regex. The email address regular expression that 99.99% works. Just copy paste this into the language of your choice. Feeling hardcore crazy, you decide read the official request for comments 5322. What does that mean? Request for comment. Specifically, it's RFCs are basically the way that they're just the formal way of saying this is the way that certain things are formatted, especially on the internet. But this is a bunch of gibberish even to me. It's horrible gibberish. And it's even got a flow chart, and that's still gibberish. So I guess just because you can write something doesn't mean you should. It also has to do with the fact that emails can look a lot weirder than you think they can. So there is that. You can do stuff like backtracking in this, which it's a bit more advanced, but hey. So but I got off topic there. So anyway, let's go back to this regular expression over here, right? So a digit, 3 digits, followed by a dash or a period, followed by followed by a number, 3 numbers, followed by a dash or a period, 3 numbers, and followed by 4 periods. Sorry, 4 digits. There is one more kind of thing I do need to point out though, which is period is a special character. Dot matches any character except line breaks. So if you're looking for a specific period and you're not in a character class, you need to escape it. So anyway, but that's just kind of, I needed to mention that. It'll come up at some point, I'm sure. Okay, now how do I do this? How do I match this? Well, what we can do is that we need to kind of write a regex that can match this. So I'm going to, again, move this aside. So how I match this? Well, I'm going to work on specifically getting this part to work. Well, specifically this part to work over here. It needed and that part was we needed a open parentheses. It's doing something like capture group over here. What in the world? Okay, so actually parentheses are used mathematically here for capturing stuff. So if you want the literal parentheses character, you got to escape them. So let's see. So right, this matches open parenthesis over there. So now digit, digit, digit. Now we need a close parentheses to be matched. And now a space. So that matches this segment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, the expression we already have, and I'm going to be a bit cheeky here, which is I'm going to put in a bar here. A bar. Yeah, that's the shift and then the key above enter on a US keyboard. And I'm going to just simply put this, let's see. And what I'm going to do is, and notice it's coming up with like stuff, which is interesting. So what I'm going to do is just simply say, put a parentheses around this. And parentheses around this. Let's see. Why does it do that as opposed to? Oh, right. I don't need the parentheses for that. I need parentheses around the first part. There we go. Yay. I mean, I still have to look up regex and test them, but that's okay. So, okay, what in the world did I do here? So this part's the same, right? Everybody agree that this part is the same? 3 digits followed by a dash or a period followed by 4 digits, right? That's this over here. What I did over here was say, let's do this. Let's make this the same format over here. What I did over here is I'm saying with this bar, alternation, it is the or statement. You read that as or. So I'm saying what I want is I want a parenthesis followed by 3 digits, followed by a parentheses, a close parentheses, followed by a space, or I want 3 digits followed by a dash and a period. And I can actually make that a bit easier on our eyes by taking this guy out of there, putting it over here, and taking this period out, and now putting the space out and putting it in here. Which changes what I'm looking for a bit. But now I'm saying basically I need a, so I can write, so this now becomes, I need 3 digits surrounded by parentheses, or just 3 digits, followed by a dash, a period, or a space, followed by 3 digits, followed by a period, dash, or space. So everybody see kind of following that? There's other ways I can implement this. I could say, hey, rather than that, I want Actually, no, because then I could have a closing parentheses with an opening parentheses, and that would be horrible. Yes, the bar is like the or statement. In fact, most programming languages, when you write or statements, you don't write out the word or. If I were going to say like, if I was writing a statement like that said, if X is greater than 5, or Y is less than 10, if I were to write a statement like that, most programming languages, you use the bar to do that. You use that. You do it like that in most other programming languages. Python's like, why do we do that? That's unnecessary hitting of the shift key and hitting a weird key. So Python's smart and made it easier to read because, you know, symbols are hard. Similarly, and in other programming languages is ampersands. So yes, but anyway, a single bar in here is exactly like an or. So it's saying a 3-digit rounded by parentheses or 3 digits. It needs to be surrounded by parentheses. So the reason we needed it surrounded by parentheses was to specify what I'm looking at, because as it's working right now, it is identifying it as 3 digits surrounded by parentheses, or 3 digits followed by a dash, period, or space, which is then followed by 3 digits, which is then followed by a dash or space. So basically it's saying either 3 digits followed by a parentheses or this original form number that we did. So by putting this period around this, we're saying we want the first chunk to be this. Right? It doesn't really, because if you don't surround it with parentheses, it doesn't know where the clause you care about begins or ends. So it just assumes that you want the whole thing. Will you have to do something as advanced as this? No, as I said, the regex I did last semester was, and this is what I'll end up with, was the temple regex. And again, this kind of stuff is a bit harder. Sorry, it's not necessarily in your textbook, but I have it in my other textbook, which I suggested, which is Automate the Boring Stuff by Zweigart. And he has a nice chapter on this pretty early on, which is chapter 7, pattern matching with regular expressions. This textbook is in the syllabus. It's free, unless you want a hard copy, in which case it's not. And he goes into a whole bunch of different code chunks as to how to use regular expressions, and an excessive amount of RoboCop references for some reason. But anyway, so my plan is I'm planning on basically on Thursday going into how to use it, how to basically solve the problem that I did. I'm going to show you step by step how we do that problem from the final exam last year, as well as some other problems. So we're going to learn how to do these, how we can use these things in Python. And I'm going to kind of teach you step by solving an actual problem. Make sense?
Yes.
Do those symbols work in Python? Yes, because when you're doing this in Python, what you're doing is that this is a string. Specifically, so if I want to do this in Python, what I'm going to do is basically, I'll have a string that says basically like pattern. Or sorry, I'm going to go like with regex is equal to, and then I'll paste this. And then what I'm going to do is that I will put, here's the only thing you have to know about how regex strings work. I put an R in front of it. Notice that the R also turned green, and that means raw string, which means that I want it to be written exactly. I want you to treat these escape characters as literally what they are. So you don't have to double escape them, which is a whole different story. But again, class is running. So that's what I have for today. I can't really stay behind because again, as I mentioned, I'm super busy. I'm trying to take care of a kid as well, and he's almost out of Looney Tunes to watch. And too much Looney Tunes will make his brain melt, I'm sure. So All right, but I will be happy to see you all on Thursday. Again, this is a thing that will make your life a whole lot easier, especially with regards to the final exam. You don't have to use Regex for the final exam, but boy, does this make it a lot easier. All right, everybody have a great day.